I never imagined that going to church could nearly get me arrested, but life has a way of throwing curveballs. My name is Marcus Johnson, and this is the story of how a new neighbor turned my quiet life in Meadowbrook, a peaceful suburb of Fairview, into a battle against prejudice that shook our community to its core. 5 years ago, I settled into a modest two-bedroom home on Elm Street. After a rough decade marked by addiction and petty crime, I turned my life around. Thanks to a hospital wake-up call and the kindness of Pastor David Reynolds at Grace Community Church. I'd been clean for 8 years, held a steady job at Carter Industries, and became a pillar of our church, mentoring youth and serving on the council. My neighbors knew me as the guy with the prize-winning roses, always ready with a wave or a helping hand. Trouble arrived 3 months ago when a for sale sign across the street turned into a moving truck. Out stepped Laura Mitchell, a woman who carried herself like she owned the entire block. Blonde hair in a tight bun, designer dress, and a demeanor that screamed entitlement. She surveyed Meadowbrook with a critical eye, lingering on my slightly weathered mailbox. I offered a friendly wave, but she hurried inside without a glance, leaving me to wonder what I'd done to earn such a cold shoulder. Grace Community Church was my sanctuary, a mostly black congregation that welcomed all. When Laura showed up one Sunday, I hoped she'd find the same warmth I had. But from her rigid posture in the third-row pew, it was clear she wasn't there for fellowship. During Pastor David's sermon on loving your neighbor, her suspicious glances burned into me, making my skin crawl. I tried to break the ice after service, introducing myself as her neighbor. She recoiled, clutching her purse like I was a threat, and muttered she was just visiting before rushing off. Over the weeks, Laura's behavior escalated. She'd watch me water my roses, check my mail, or chat with neighbors, treating every move like a crime in progress. She'd arrive at church early, always taking the aisle seat with a clear view of me and the exit, her eyes darting between Pastor David's sermon notes and my pew. Neighbors later told me she'd been whispering about undesirable types, lowering property values, clearly targeting me. The breaking point came during a Sunday service 4 weeks later. Pastor David was preaching about redemption, his words resonating with my own journey from a hospital bed to a life of purpose. But Laura's stare was unrelenting, her whispers to a friend growing louder. During fellowship time, I overheard her telling a new member, Sarah Collins, that the church needed background checks because people like him were dangerous. Sarah, bless her, laughed it off, praising my work with the youth program. Laura stormed out, but not before shooting me a look that could have curdled milk. Days later, I came home to find a police cruiser parked at Laura's house. My heart raced old instincts from my troubled past, but Officer Daniel Carter, who knew me from the youth program, looked exasperated. Laura had called 911, claiming I was casing houses and following her to church. I explained my routine, watering flowers, checking mail, attending church for 8 years. Daniel sighed, confiding that Laura had demanded a background check, convinced I was a threat. He found no evidence of wrongdoing and left, but I knew this wasn't over. The following Sunday, the storm broke. Pastor David's sermon on standing strong in adversity was interrupted when Laura stood during the closing prayer, pointing at me. "I know what you are," she hissed, her voice slicing through the silence. "You're a criminal, and this church is hiding you." The congregation froze. She accused me of stalking her and demanded to know why Pastor David allowed dangerous people in church. Pastor David stepped down, urging her to calm down, but Laura's rage only grew. "You people always stick together," she spat, the racist undertones unmistakable. Then, in a moment that stunned us all, she shoved Pastor David. The sanctuary gasped as he stumbled back. Deacon James Carter stood, demanding she leave. Laura, undeterred, pulled out her phone, threatening a citizen's arrest and accusing the church of money laundering and harboring fugitives. Her friend, Karen Ellis, begged her to stop, but Laura ranted on, claiming she knew important people who'd shut the church down. Pastor David calmly dialed 911. When Officer Daniel arrived, Laura's accusations crumbled under scrutiny. Deacon James showed a video of her outburst, capturing her shove and racist remarks. Faced with the evidence, Laura doubled down, demanding Daniel arrest me and the pastor. Instead, he cuffed her for assault, disturbing the peace, and filing false reports. As she was let out, still screaming about conspiracies, The sanctuary fell silent, processing the chaos. The aftermath was swift. Detective Emily Rogers visited me, revealing Laura's pattern of baseless complaints constituted a hate crime. Neighbors rallied around me, sharing how Laura had tried to recruit them against me, only to be rebuffed. The Thompsons praised my help with their yard. The Garcias called me their best neighbor. Laura's trial became a local sensation. The prosecution presented her 911 calls, neighbor testimonies, and Deacon James's video, painting a clear picture of racist harassment. Laura's defense, claiming fear, collapsed when her friend Karen testified about Laura's use of racial slurs and obsession with my past. The jury convicted Laura of assault, false reporting, and hate crime harassment. Judge Patricia Hayes sentenced her to 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service at a nonprofit for ex-offenders, and anti-bias training. Laura's life unraveled. Her husband divorced her, her social circle vanished, and her house went up for sale. When she tried to return to Grace Community, Pastor David gently turned her away, urging genuine repentance. For me, the ordeal opened new doors. I spoke at community events, sharing my story of redemption, and was invited to consult on criminal justice reform. As Laura's house sold, Pastor David preached on justice and mercy, reminding us that consequences can be a form of grace. The pew where Laura once glared at me now held a new family, welcomed warmly. My past, once a source of fear, became proof of my strength. This story isn't just about one woman's prejudice, it's about a community that stood firm, a faith that endured, and a justice that prevailed. What do you think about the role of violence and injustice in our lives? Should Laura have faced harsher consequences, or was her sentence fair? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's discuss what justice means to you.